welcome to the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website. We've got a bunch of guests with us today. We're talking about the Basketball Classic. It's a postseason basketball tournament. We'll break it all down for you in just a minute. Around the horn there, Marcus Wilson is with us, former Evansville great, SLU coach, played in Europe, businessman, all kinds of things going on for him. Rich Zvosec down there, former coach, author, read your book, outstanding. Really enjoyed that, Rich. And he's an actor. I don't know if you catch him on those commercials and all those kinds of things. He's a big deal. And then Greg Lansing, the former head coach at Indiana State, and you've coached around the country, Hall of Famer in the state of Iowa. And guys that I really respect and guys that I really enjoy hanging out with. So guys, appreciate you being with us today. And we're talking about the Basketball Classic. What are your guys' roles? I think you guys are part of the selection committees and all that. Are you sitting around studying teams, studying games, reading the NET and reading Ken Pom, or are you just throwing darts at a wall? Craig, you go first.
Oh, I'm watching a lot of games. I think last night I had the TV on and my iPad and on my phone, and of course closely watching my Sycamores and hoping they're going to be able to make a run in St. Louis. But I'm just doing that, and I've been talking to a lot of coaches throughout the year, regardless whether it be consulting or they're just being friends of mine, and wondering what I'm doing. You know, when am I going to get back into it? But I'm following it closely for sure. My role is just when they invited me to be on the board of Racism. You know, Coach and I, we've been on tons of Zoom calls and combining ideas, and you did it throughout the year, and then. Now, when the tournament came in, man, I got fired up about that. I think it'd really be cool. And I know I'm going to I'll be a site supervisor. I'm sure these guys will too, wherever they might have it. But it's really, as Coach Z was alluding to there is, I mean, you know, I'm such a Valley guy that I know most of those teams are good enough, you know, to be in the darn thing and win. And your top four are probably NCAA tournament teams in my point of view. So I really look forward to the process of getting down to it. All of us are contacting, giving information to teams that are going to be able to do it and getting the word out there. This is what we're doing. Hope you want to join us, and working through that right now, kind of in a process of getting teams.
Yeah, Marcus, is it kind of low-level recruiting right now? I mean, like you're getting the word out to people and saying, hey, if we want you to be in the NCAA tournament, we want you to do all that. However, we've got this other place. I mean, is there that kind of those kinds of conversations going on?
No.
No. I was looking for this juicy thing. Go ahead.
So I've approached it is I'm looking at all the teams across all the conferences, mainly mid-major. I wouldn't say mid-major, but mid-major, and I'm looking at all teams, right? And if you're 500. It's going to be hard for you to, unless you're like in, you know, the Big 12, it's going to be hard for you to get into the NCAA tournament. So luckily, you know, there's this thing called ESPN Plus where I can go back and watch a bunch of games. And like Greg, I study the game. I like watching basketball. And so a lot of the teams that I think are around that area, what I'm doing and what they've encouraged us to do is say, you know, who do you know? Like, who do you have a great relationship with? I'm sure Greg has great relationships with a ton of people, and all of us do. So then I'll say, hey, I know this guy really well, or I know this coach really well, or whatever. And so when reach out to them, see what their interests are, not promise anything, let them know what we're doing. Once, and all my conversations I've had, once I let them know what we're doing, why we changed the name, the initiatives behind it, it's been like, hey, if we don't get in the NCAA tournament, like I'm talking to a team in the West Coast Conference, like, yeah, we want to knock off Gonzaga. We think, we're going to have to play perfect to do that. We think we deserve an NIT bid. If not, I'm rolling with you guys, right? And so just so they know that we're here, but then also just making sure that, I want to be able to identify what's the difference between a 500 team in the West Coast Conference and a 500 team in the MVC. There might not be much difference in the A10. A lot of those middle of the pack teams are similar. So just laying some eyes on them and being able to add some contribution when someone asks me, what do I think?
So Rich, what if I read the website right? On the 13th of March, you guys are rolling out the bracket. I mean, like they're going to reveal the NCAA tournament, they're going to reveal the NIT, and bang, here's the Basketball Classic. You have to have some people ready to go at 6 p.m. Sunday night, the 13th.
So you're absolutely right. And kind of to build on what both Greg and Marcus said, the dynamic of the selection committee is basically this: that everybody on the committee has relationships that built up through the years. Greg's different than mine, Marcus different than mine. So we're trying to touch all the potential teams out there. So there's a lot of background work being done right now as far as contacting schools and engaging their interest if they don't win their conference tournament, if they don't get an NIT bid, so that you're set as far as almost all of your teams by Sunday night, even before the NCAA and the NIT brackets are announced. Obviously, when somebody may win their conference tournament with an upset, or somebody gets an at-large bid that wasn't expected, there's backup teams that you'll go to then. So, a lot of the groundwork has been done already, and championship week will take on a new meaning for everybody on the selection committee.
I'm probably the oldest guy in this conversation this afternoon. And I was looking through the website and seeing these individual awards, the Willis Reed Award and the Marcus Haynes Award. But the one that tickles me the most is Zelmo Beatty, the shot block leader. Zelmo Beatty was an old St. Louis Hawk. And you guys don't know that because I'm a lot older than you. But I love those awards named after people that maybe a lot of the younger generation, they've never even heard their names. I think it's super important to bring that history into contemporary notion and thought and education. Yeah, Greg?
Yeah, I think that's pretty important. I was watching the All-Star game the other night, and they had the best 75 players ever, and they're talking about how much respect the newer generation and the newer players have for that. And I think it's important. And this educated me a lot. Now, when we got these awards, and I thought Joe Dwyer, it was just an excellent idea being able to do this. And it's all levels, Division II, Division III, NAI, everybody can be in that thing. And we're working and moving towards women's basketball, some on that side as well. So it's kind of a cool thing. And I think it's great, especially in the age of, the Twitter world, all that. Somebody may be able to say, hey, I was scoring as much as the D1 guys, or I was ahead of this guy or that guy. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, I just remember Zelmo Beatty back from the day, when the Hawks were in St. Louis, we'd go down to the old Kiel Opera House, Kiel Auditorium, and watch Zelmo Beatty play, and Richie Guerin, and all kind of people that were jumping. Joe Caldwell, he was my favorite. And so, but since I'm old, I have some of those memories. But Marcus, go ahead, Marcus.
I want to piggyback on what he just said. Like, we talk about equity, and oftentimes you use that word and people just think maybe race or gender. But the equity in this is there's some D2 teams that could probably beat some low major D1 teams, right? And if those guys, there's a point guard on that team averaging 9.9 assists, that dude can play, right? And he deserves to be recognized. And so I think that's another thing that I really liked about this. I was at Evansville. Evans was much smaller than some of these bigger schools, and it was D1. But when you see guys like we talked about Stan Gerard, when he was, he's the coach at USI, and luckily they are moving up from D2 to D1. But I guarantee Stan Gerard could have took multiple people D1's starting spots had he had the opportunity. So for us to be able to acknowledge that and put kids' names like that in the national spotlight, I think is really awesome.
Love the approach of getting people noticed and recognized and celebrated. To me, that's just so important. So the big question, I really had you guys on for ulterior motives. All the games are on ESPN Plus. So how do I get a gig? How do I announce some of the games? No, I'm just kidding. Tell us what's next for you guys. You can continue to just mine the field, talk to people. What else can we expect to hear from the Racism Forever website and or organization and the Basketball Classic? What's coming up? Are we just on hold till the 13th of March?
I guess I'll take that. I think that obviously the tournament is going to take a lot of recognition and get a lot of national spotlight. But then there's just other initiatives moving forward, as I think we put in the press release about helping some minority coaches get opportunities. I think there's also another initiative of helping student managers get the experience. So there's another thing that people don't know is, you see at Arkansas, not Arkansas, but Power 5 schools, we have 9 coaches on the bench. I'm talking like the head coach, 3 assistants. You have the DOBO, director, player, personnel, and the video coordinator, and then another 5, right? Like there's other people doing a lot of other things. Smaller schools can't afford that. So one of the initiatives also would be to be able to help with some funding for the smaller schools, maybe HBCUs or some lower level, low majors that can't afford those extra positions, to be able to help student managers be able to get that. So not only will it help the university and they have that extra assistance, but also be able to help that kid learn the marketing, the fundraising, the video editing, all those things, to where that kid would have an opportunity to possibly become a coach. I don't think that that's going to happen this summer, but things like that, it's like I said, the word equity just permeates throughout everything we're doing in terms of opportunities for kids, in terms of what levels of your plan, and minority coaches. And so I think if anything equity wise, I think racism has a possibility of touching it.
Rich,
Harry, we should get you on one of our calls with us, and you can hear some of the things, because there's a long list, like Marcus alluded to a couple of them there, of things that we have planned with this committee. We're not done. Obviously the biggest one is this game is no secret. That game, and it is just, every game I watched on TV, I think they talked about it. You have high profile guys like Kelvin Sampson, really putting a lot into it and raising money, and everyone across the country has really kind of taken that on, and it's going to go again to other levels, women's basketball and all that. But there's a long list that we have on it. But shoot, all these people have jobs except for me. So everybody's doing other stuff, and starting this tournament was really, really important, and I think we're going to be off to a great start.
I love all that stuff. Rich, before I let you guys go, the press release and the information from the website talked about I think they said only 11 minority coaches in the Power 5 conferences. The numbers are better probably at some of the lower levels, but what kind of initiatives, what kind of energy, what kind of change do we need to make to see that minority coaches maybe have a better opportunity, that those numbers start to change?
No, it's getting people in front of the decision makers, getting them in front of administrators, getting them into the funnel, so to speak. We talk about it all the time in recruiting. You get players, or if you're recruiting employees, into a funnel, and the more times they're in front of somebody, the more opportunities they're going to have. So it's just trying to increase that awareness, trying to increase the name recognition, for lack of a better way to put it.
We were talking before about Stan Gerard, the head coach at University of Southern Indiana. They're moving into the OVC, and I talked to him earlier today, and this was my takeaway from my conversation. Enjoyed getting to know him, and we got done with the conversation, and I thought, he's a Division I head coach. What I mean is not because they're moving to Division I. He's a Division I head coach. He talks like one. He sounds like one. He's got all the right things going on. Is it that simple, Greg, to get the right guys in front of people, or are there bigger walls to climb over?
Oh, in this game, and you're talking to a coach that doesn't have a job right now. There's so many ways that people are getting hired, and there's using search firms and this and that. And if you're not connected to somebody, your AD wasn't hired by that search firm before he got hired at that school. It's very political, and it's a lot of who you know. And I think it's a great initiative. I've worked, you mentioned Stan, I've worked with, a great friend. Oh, heck yes, he's going to be a great coach. So is Kareem Richardson and Marcus Belcher and Marcus Wilson and David Ragland, guys that I've worked with and are friends. And they have to have an opportunity for one, like Coach Z said, get with the decision maker. You just have a chance. Maybe you don't get it, maybe you do get it. And that's really all we're trying to do right now, is get them in front of a decision maker and have an opportunity.
And Marcus, any other thoughts along those lines? It does seem like, for all of the rhetoric, man, the numbers are so small that you wonder, right? Is there those hidden biases still alive and well in college basketball?
Yeah, I do want to say something about that. Like, one thing that I do want to make clear: by no means do I, or I don't think anyone, want to put a minority coach ahead of someone that other person is better than, right? But almost every job that I've ever had in my history wasn't because of my degree or my GPA. It was because I knew someone. Someone gave me a reference. And unfortunately, oftentimes, is the higher you go up, if those people in those positions don't have a diverse network of people to where they can refer and say, hey, I know this guy. One happens to be white, one happens to be black, right? It doesn't matter, but I know them and I'm giving them all the opportunity. If that was the case, this wouldn't be necessary. Unfortunately, we know that's not the case. And so what I hope comes out of this is when people in those higher positions think about a job, there are names that they may not know who are just as qualified, and put those people in front of them. If that person goes there and blows the interview, so be it. If they go there and, knock somebody off their feet, a la Mike Tomlin with the Steelers, right? We've heard that story, and if that happens, then that's what it's about. It's just giving people an opportunity to show what they can do. Because oftentimes people, with the low numbers of minority coaches that we see, like Greg alluded to, they're just not connected with the right people. And so we hope to make that connection and be that conduit between people that can get the job done and the people who are making the decisions.
All power to you guys. Hope all these things go spectacularly well. Appreciate the time. I appreciate all three of you. We've interacted at so many different levels, all three of us, and Marcus and I have done some things together. Z, you and I have done some games together, and Greg, I just have so much affection for you and the way you coach guys. So anyway, super appreciate you guys. We've been talking about the Basketball Classic. You might have thought of the old CIT tournament, rebranded, renamed, with a whole lot of social initiatives, basketball initiatives that are super important. Appreciate your time today, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, guys.
That'll do it for us. You've been watching the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website. I'm Harry Schroeder, reminding you, since you've been there, make it a better place. We'll see you again real soon.